Get them fired up and get them to the staging lanes, baby, because 8th Mile Apparel is now carrying Going Bracket Racing merch. Hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and much more can be yours today by visiting 8thmileapparel.com. We appreciate each and every one of you guys supporting the Going Bracket Racing YouTube and Facebook pages.
April 23rd, 2024, episode 152, also known as Spring Fling Week at Goliath Motorsports Park. We'll be talking about that a little while later. First, we got to give some love to those sponsors. TSR Racing Products. Visit them for your Power Glides, Turbo 350s, 400s, and 727 transmission parts and accessories. BRG 3D printed parts. Anything you need, Brian Garrett prints it up for you right there. High density polymers and plastics. You got any kind of weird parts you need, give the dimensions to Brian and he'll get something worked out for you. You can mount it right up in your race car. Don't forget, he's got a mount now where you can mount a stock style sun visor to your roll bar pretty easily. And that's something we all need time to time. So visit BRG for that. Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. Stickers, shirts, brochures, anything you need for your business. Call Duffield over there, Syntex Printing. Driven Racing Oil, of course. They don't sell just oil. As Dylan Champion likes to say, they don't sell just oil, Casey. They sell all kinds of petroleum products. And guess what? You can go on drivenracingoil.com, use the code GBR10, get yourself 10% off your order. No limit. Get that oil in your hot rod, make it go faster and faster. And if you need to go a little bit faster and you can't quite get there, get some of that new Speed Clean, man. That stuff's the best thing you can possibly spray on the back fender. Get that rubber falling right off like butter. Proform Parts. Visit proformparts.com and check out their new brushless radiator fans. 50% more cooling power in a lower profile little box right there. You know, you got a big block in an S10, you might need a little bit more room, and this one just plugs right up to a 12-volt source. You don't have to do any craziness with it. Crew Chief Pro software, get those dial-ins figured out. If you're one of those guys scratch your head every once in a while, sometimes you need a little extra help. Are you one of those people, George? It looks like you are time to time, but you got Crew Chief Pro to get it figured out for you. And of course, the Easy Light. Call down there to the Sandlands and get those Easy Lights so you can fuel your race car in the middle of the night in the pitch black. And if you want to support Casey and George, get one of these sweet Going Bracket Racing shirts, hats, all kinds of stuff over there. Tree chopper shirts if you really want to get frisky about it. 8thmileapparel.com is where you get all of your GBR merchandise if you want to support the channel. George, it's Spring Fling Week, man.
Yeah.
Watching?
A little bit, man. Just a little off and on. I had to take care of a little chores, you know, if I want to. Hopefully, I think it's going to be a washout for the weekend. But old Gleghorn's got his 2-day bracket race going on at the Motorplex. And so I wanted to get ahead of the game, got the grass cut, everything weed eat, you know, all that good stuff done. So if I sneeze 10, 15 times during this stream, well, it's probably a piece of grass stuck up there in my brain somewhere that won't come down. Anyway, a little bit of tickle. But, yeah, man, it's been a good day out here. Pretty nice weather. Been watching a little bit of the kind of the warm-up 20 grander here. Seeing some interesting laps, Casey. We've talked about a couple just in the backstage here. I've never seen Gary Williams 30 red. That's a little shocking to me. I'll call that out right off the rip. But definitely some things going on over there. In case you guys didn't know, they're going to be live on the Spring Fling. It's the Fling Race Series YouTube channel. They'll be live with some footage. I believe Warren, I believe also Chad's out there giving us some live coverage of this event all week long. So Make sure you're subscribed, otherwise you won't be able to chat while you're there. While you're here, make sure you're subscribed to GBR Going Bracket Racing as well, for upcoming events as well, and as well as GBR Live every single Tuesday, 4 p.m. Central, 5 Eastern. So Casey, man, that's a pretty good place to start. Will be at this Spring Fling Galot, man, and it's been a while since we've kind of talked about some head-to-head matchups or some of the powerhouses that we have listed at this event. What's your thoughts, man, and about this event? Maybe we can go into a brief power ranking down the line. Maybe it'll be off the cuff, but so be it, right?
Yeah, it pretty much will be, man, because both of us been busy with what we got going on right now. But I did get a chance. They happen to be in first round of the 20 grand 32 car shootout that's going on right now. That now they're back in time runs or testing tune. I think they have today. So if y'all are listening to this on your way home from work and you happen to miss it, I'll give you the little rundown right now. So today is just, normally they would do like a dragster shootout. They're doing a $20,000 shootout. Everybody who entered this race, I think it's a single entry type deal. What if it isn't? It was, because I didn't see two of the same guys. But it was a 1050 was the entry fee for it, and it's 20,000 to win, 3,000 to runner up, 1,000 to semi. So let me see here. Let me find my little list, because I wrote everything down for everybody so that way we could see who was still in. There's a couple, 2 or 3 Galot boys still in. We had Verdi won first round, Bloomfield, Chad Duke, Cisco, Burleson, Miller, Smith, Shell, Sanders, Harbaugh, Shane Carr, Holloman, Donovan Williams, Thompson, Calder, and Domino are all still in. So there'll be 16 cars left going into the next round whenever that comes up. $20,000 on the line on Tuesday, so we'll see what comes of that. Tomorrow we got 15,000 to win. Thursday's 50 grand, Friday's 50 grand, Saturday's 50 grand. So triple 50s along with a $15,000 warm-up race. I know a lot of people are on their way there right now, including quite a few of my friends. My buddy Travis Morton called me, I want to say last Thursday afternoon. He said, "Man, you coming down here to Galot?" I said, "No, man, I'm putting new shocks on my car. I got to test some stuff. I don't even have the little nuts that go on them right now. I'm waiting on FedEx. Decided for some reason they could deliver shocks to me and leave them at the end of my driveway on Saturday. And now all of a sudden they can't drop my cheap $90 part off on, at any other point. They decided my address is invalid now. So I'm like, okay, so everybody knows how that goes. Anyway, Travis tells me, he says, "I'm on my way there right now, and I'm not leaving until the Fling's over." So he's going to be there almost 2 weeks. So
He's ready to get at
he
it.
said, oh yeah, he said they played. I saw he was looking for marshmallows last night. And then he said yesterday they had gone golfing or something like that. So he's having a better time than all of the rest of us that are going to work. I can tell you that. But I hope to see my buddies out there doing good. Obviously, we'll be able to watch, like you said, on the Spring Fling Bracket Races page. That's kind of a mouthful, really.
It is.
But the Spring Fling Bracket Races page, we'll be able to see that from now until Saturday, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
man. Yeah,
be an interesting week. Perfect weather.
You mentioned old Donnie B was still in the race. I figured I'd switch it to a Donnie B hat. He gave me quite a few of these last time I saw him. So, Team Texas, you know who I'm rooting for, guys. It's just Team Texas out there. So let's get it done. Another weird one, Casey. Let's just digest this a little bit. Watching Corey Galletti go down the track, dialed at 446. I think he had about 16 on the hit, 003 to maybe a 20 or something like that, and then breaking her out 442 on a 446. And let's just digest this, because this is one of the better racers probably right now, top 3 in the world. Okay, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? I've not seen Corey mess up a 17 thou lead.
Yeah.
And then go down there and be that far under a dial-in. So what are we thinking there, Casey? Let's tear that one apart. I have a few thoughts.
I think I agree with your initial thought that we were talking about off camera, because you said, "Man, was that a wrong dial-in?" I said, "Surely not." And it had to be, man, because in fact, Corey was dialed in the low 30s, I want to say, in Vegas.
Yeah.
And he had made a post on Facebook, and I said, what do you think your car would run at sea level? Which obviously we're getting ready to find out, because I bet he didn't turn it down.
Right.
And he said probably, I think he said, I don't know if he said mid 20s or low 20s, but obviously Vegas is pretty high up there in altitude. So we know it's going to run in the 20s at the very least. It'll be probably one of the top 5 fastest race cars there, more than likely.
Sure.
But yeah, 440 something, that's a little slow unless something happened to that other motor that we don't know about. But I mean,
sure.
Again,
but on top of that, even if he is dialed 446,
right.
Corey Glitty's not going to take, what is that, 400?
Well, he went 8 under, didn't he? Didn't he go 36 or something?
He went 42 on a 46 or something like that. So he's 4 under with a 003 to a 20 advantage. He's not going to take 50 at the stripe. Okay, so
I wish we knew his number off the top of our heads, because if we did, Galat has a time slip app. So by the way, anybody who wants to follow along, if they don't put live timing on the screen for some reason later on in the week when they're getting the real production going, Galat Motorsports Park has a time slip app that you can download for free, and you can put any car number in and look up all of their time slips, or, I'm sure we are all familiar with those by now. But just so everyone knows, if you want to follow along, you can.
That's a conversation in itself. I mean, we could get off into that if we need to, about how many times I've seen somebody despise that little app, because
let's just talk about it. We're already on the subject.
We're on the subject. Let's do it, Casey, because I'm going to be honest with you and forthright. I've used that little doodad to my advantage before too, and I mean, it's not hard to look across the way and see who you're racing and go on your phone and type in that number and see how much mile an hour they pulled on you, or see what they were dialed last time compared to what they're dialed this time. So I always do see quite a bit of complaints there. Of course, we know that application came out and it made its way onto the scenes during COVID, I do believe, where nobody could be near anybody, you couldn't touch anybody, things of that nature. You didn't want to wind up in the hospital for the sake of grabbing a time slip. Number 2, you can't drive your race car no more for a little while. So, at any rate, what's your feelings on that app? I mean, I'm still gonna put my stuff in Crew Chief Pro anyway, because that's my data logger, or my data logger, my log for my runs and everything. It's going in there. So what's your take on that app?
I think initially, the opinion was always, man, this sucks, because everybody knows what you can run when you can run it. Well, they do and don't. It depends on if you're, because obviously the only time it matters is if you're holding, because if you're running it to the wood, you don't care if they know that or not, because that's what you're doing. But the thing is you can manipulate things in the way you hold. I think people that are good enough to recognize certain things can adapt to it. I don't think it's as big of a deal as everybody initially thought it was. You just had to think about it and adjust to it. And I think also it hinders people's ability to really lay down a good lap, because I think it gets in people's heads. Like, if you look through the app, now you can look through the app and say, man, this guy's been no worse than 8 in the last 5 runs. And then you can be like, man, I got to be on the tree subconsciously. Or you can sit here and be like, man, this guy's holding every single round. He's obviously spot dropping. And now all of a sudden he doesn't spot drop you. And, I think that it can hurt you in some ways and help you in other ways. So I think it really evens out. And I think that the coolest part about it is that, for example, me and my buddy, Adam Booya, we always are talking about each other's stuff. Well, if one of us isn't there, the other one can look through all these other time slips and be like, well, this happened, because there's also a historical log of it. If you type in my car number at Galat, you can look at my stuff from last year, know?
Right.
Sometimes. I mean, maybe it's not like that all the time, but
I think it is. I think it's like that pretty much all the time, where you can go back, you can run through previous runs and things of that nature. So, no, man, it was definitely worth talking about that app, because I know that it's not the first time it's been brought up. Maybe one of these days we'll go a little bit further into it and get your guys' take on why the app is good or bad. I kind of see it being a hindrance and helpful at the same time. It's definitely a tattletale. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. It's worse than a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old that has an older brother or sister that picks on him at all times. It's a
You know
tattletale
something
for sure.
about that?
I know a little bit about that. You know what I'm saying? So, Cody Spears, welcome to the show, man. Good to see you out there. Cody said, "What's up, Casey?" So, good to see you out there. But no, man, as we continue on with the fling, we of course have True Start in effect, and that is always a beautiful conversation that we'll skip right over. But as we continue, as we continue thinking on the lines of it, let's pull down what we think, Casey, would be a good top 5. And I wonder if our list would be the same. Normally we write this stuff out, but this is kind of last minute. I'm really interested to see what happens out here in Glot. I know that there are a lot of good racers out in North Carolina, the Carolinas as a whole. So I'm going to start there with saying that I don't think a Carolina driver takes the cookie in any of the events this week. That's just for sheer
That's
conversational
not very
pieces.
nice, George.
It's just a
That's not very nice.
conversational piece. Now, if you or Dylan or somebody was entered into the race, is Brandon running?
Oh yeah, he runs it every year. I'm sure that he parked last weekend, probably never left too.
Oh shoot! So he's just got a good parking spot. Well, if it's going to be a Carolina boy to win it, Brandon Lane's going to do it. You heard it right here first on GBR Live. But otherwise, it ain't happening. Who you got out there, man? Who you got? Who you rooting for? Number 1, but number 2, let's go off into a power ranking and start talking about the who we already know is going to be somewhere close to that cookie in the first place.
Well, I mean, if I'm going with strictly Carolina people, since you're anti-North Carolina for some reason, first of all, I mean, 2 of the people that you can never count out whenever the money's high or anything are the Pascal brothers, TG and Michael Pascal. I would expect to see them very deep at least one night, if not 2 of the nights, especially considering this would be, it's not technically their home track, but it's a track that they primarily race at anytime it's open. They know it very well. So I would say those are definitely in my top 5. I would say Eric Amon in the Real Fast Cavalier. He was still doubled last year at the Fling. I want to say he was still doubled at like 6 or 8 cars in that 520 Cavalier, the black and purple car. So he would be in there. Jerry Bouya was driving very well at the Loose Rocker race earlier this year, and the Green Maverick is always a threat. Whenever if Jerry can let go, the Maverick usually repeats pretty good. Who else? So I got one more pick. Let's see. Got to go with another Carolina racer. Man, I would have to say probably Sessoms. Sessoms would be a good pick. So those are my 5. All Galot people.
You got all 5 top 5 Galot is what you go with, and honestly, I said nobody from North Carolina would win it just to kind of get us into a conversational piece. There are going to have some juggernauts to go up against. That's the other reason I say it. So if my top 5 doesn't include a Carolina driver, well, it is what it is. But I don't know if he's there or not, but the Rabbit's going to have a real good showing this weekend. I think is he a Virginia or a Carolina boy?
South Carolina.
So I can't put him on my list. But I think he would be one of the others that I would say is probably going to be really, really tough to deal with out here this weekend. I'm going to put Burleson on the list. Burleson's been on a roll. I think I've seen him win one in Holly Springs. He's really getting the car underneath himself. He's been letting go good, and just staying in a groove. Give me both Galidis.
Oh, man.
What happened?
Dylan Champion, I can't believe that I missed this.
Blaine Parrish.
Yeah. Blaine Parrish. Now, let me tell you, George, about this, though, because I know you know who Blaine is, but Blaine was in both finals, won both finals at Loose Rocker. We then went to where else did we go? Then we went to Fayetteville, and he didn't do great there. Then he got pissed off at the Camaro, I guess, or got offered the right amount of money, sold the Camaro that he just won all that money with, sold the Camaro, bought another Mustang, goes to the finals the next week I think he ran Rockingham at SFG. He ran Rockingham and got pretty deep in that with a Mustang that he had just got. Then he went to Coastal Plains, ends up in the final at Coastal Plains. And then he went somewhere last week and either won or went deep. It might have been Galat. He either won or went deep at Galat. Like, so I mean, he's owned the whole year so far. And as usual, poor Blaine lives 5 minutes away from me, and I always forget about him. But Blaine Parrish, if I can have an alternate on my list, Blaine's going to be on it, because that dude, man, he's had a standout year. He's always been a good racer ever since I've known him, and he's not slowing down. It seems like he gets better and better every year.
Yeah, man. No, it's definitely a name that you hear a lot about. A lot of winning going on. Doesn't have to be on the big scene. We have enough of a social media outlook that'll tell you just about everything about every area. So that's definitely a name to be reckoned with as well. I know that I was getting into my list there, and I took both Galittis. Why did I take Chris Galitti? Chris Galitti was on a roll in Vegas. Okay, he was on a serious roll in Vegas, and it got derailed a little bit early. You know what I mean? He is. He was just out there letting go of the lights, making the right decision at the stripe. So it's easy for me to take, both of my Galittis, my Texas crew. I've already named 3 Texas people, right? Burleson's and both Galittis, right? But there's a reason. Their resume right now, leading up into this race, is pretty solid right now, especially going multiple rounds down there at the Fling. I think all the way up until round 6, I want to say Corey and Chris both might have been in the million left in the million. So it's at least one of those races, or if not a warm up. But so give me both of them. We saw Vinny Domino's here too, so I'll take him as my 4th pick, and then give me Donovan Williams this weekend. I just feel like it's his time to hit another one. He hadn't hit anything major, I don't believe, since like last year sometime, whenever he really emerged on the scene, whatever year that was. It was last year or it was the year before, Casey, where we're like, okay, here's another Williams boy out here.
Yeah.
But Donovan's pretty well due for one too. So my top 5 is pretty well saturated with people that we all know very well who can get it done. And it's just what I figure would be the toughest group to take on some North Carolina boys. Of course, I had to fill it with as many Texas people as I could. You know how that goes. Well, especially since PRI, we had this conversation in pretty good length in Hooters, I believe, where we were eating.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Right.
But speaking of Chris Galetti, man, what's up with Chris Galetti in Las Vegas? Because that's usually his best race of the year. It seems like I think not this year, but last year, I want to say he made like 35 rounds or something at Spring Fling in Vegas.
Right. I think that was last year. And you're right. Maybe it's the drive, because he gets, I heard, and just talking to a few guys, that he gets in a really good mood when he has to drive pretty far. And everybody knows it was snowing this past trip on the way to Vegas. Everybody wants to stop, but Chris Galitti's like, I finally get to drive an 18-wheeler in the snow. I'm like, I don't know if I want to drive an 18-wheeler in the snow, let alone not on no mountain. But he's out there getting after it, you know what I mean? So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the travel out there. I've never driven 20-something odd hours to get to a racetrack, but maybe that has something to do with his mojo being pretty hyped up. You know what I mean?
It must, man. I don't know. Maybe it just gets him going whenever he gets all wound up or something. But typically those long drives bring everybody else the other direction, including myself. But talking about going the other direction, man, did you see what happened at Gateway to their stands? They had like 6 tornadoes in the area and blew all the stands onto the racetrack, I guess.
Yeah, man, I saw that. That was pretty. Let's be glad. Number one, let's be glad nobody got hurt. Number 2, let's hope that none of the timing system got hurt that's on that track. Yeah. Even if it did, Worldwide Technology is behind that track. Very, very reputable company, to say the least. Okay, so they'll get it taken care of and be back to racing before you know it. But yeah, definitely was pretty gnarly to see those bleachers just laid over across the track. You and I grew up there, so we know when a storm comes through that area, well, that's the direction of the wind, or the direction of which way the storm will be coming, the way those bleachers were laying over, coming from the arch, kind of presumably. If you look back right behind those bleachers, you'll be able to see the arch, and that's where those storms just kind of blow right across. So Pretty gnarly, man. Shouts out to you guys. Hope you get it fixed up quick and either get you some new bleachers or whatever else you will decide to do. You know what I mean? But one of the destination tracks for NHRA as well. So I guarantee you it'll be up and ready to go by October, I believe. No, and maybe into September.
Well, they have NMCA. I want to say like only in a couple weeks, so they'll for sure. I mean, they're just going to clean it up on starting. I can't imagine what the cleanup crew is like, but
it's probably done already, if we're being honest.
Yeah,
they
I'm
probably
sure
already got it all picked up, so just barring anything else as far as for electronically, having a tough storm like that blow through. But that's kind of the type of weather we're going to be faced with here in the Midwest, kind of the South out here in the Texas area. This week, there's a pretty severe outlook for weather. So, hey, I'm not a meteorologist or anything like that, but you guys make sure you pay attention to your local weather channels. Could get a pretty good strong outbreak with a dry line and a humid line, whatever, when they meet or stall, getting ready to tear up some stuff. So keep your eyes open. You heard it here on GBR as well. So I'm not a meteorologist, but I ain't lying like they do either. I already read the news. So this is definitely being widely broadcast. There's going to be some pretty interesting weather. So
the one job you can be wrong all the time and still be employed.
So hang in there, guys. We're coming up on that good time for a short few words from our marketing partners. We'll get right back to you with more here on GBR Live, episode 152. Like and share. See you in a second.
Proform wedge locking header bolts are the last set of header bolts you'll ever need. Each bolt comes pre-assembled with a pair of special locking washers. Wedge locking header bolts are manufactured with grade 8 steel and come in 1 inch and 3/4 inch lengths.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
Get them fired up and get them to the staging lanes, baby, because 8th Mile Apparel is now carrying Glowing Bracket Racing merch. Hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and much more can be yours today by visiting 8thmileapparel.com. We appreciate each and every one of you guys supporting the Glowing Bracket Racing YouTube and Facebook pages.
Innovation never sleeps at Proform, and we're making our popular Black Race Series carburetors even better by adding new features that will set them apart from the competition. Some of the newest features include a newly designed main body with contoured Venturas for better airflow and a new inside and outside two-step down leg boosters for increased atomization and better throttle response. Also, newly designed fuel bowls with increased internal baffling for better fuel control and a lower fuel ramp for reduced turbulence. There are also some new upgrades to point out. The fuel bowls now both include nitrofill floats, and the throttle base plate now has slab shafts for better airflow. These new features, combined with the fully adjustable high-flow main body with screw-in air bleeds, billet metering blocks, high-performance billet throttle base plate, and aluminum fuel bowls with sight glass windows, makes for a great street strip carburetor that packs a punch.
All right. Welcome back. Glowing Bracket Racing Live, episode 152. Casey and George here, man. Thanks everybody for being part of the GBR community, giving us a reason to want to come up, get on the mics, and talk about our sport every Tuesday, 5 Eastern, 4 Central. And can't be done, of course, without our marketing partners, TSR Racing Products, Proform Parts, Crew Chief Pro, Driven Racing Products. Don't just want to call it Driven Racing Oil at times, even though that's good stuff as well. I got quite a few questions coming to the mailbox the other day about Driven Oil. Definitely give it a shot if you're running methanol or anything like that. You will not be upset. And I can get you plenty of people to vouch for that if you want. So that's just totally up to you. You can take my word for it. BRG Motorsports, 3D printed parts. Ken Jones Performance, Syntex Printing, Easy Light. You want to fuel your car at night? Choose Easy Light. 8th Mile Apparel. I got some new ideas up my sleeve, and I think you guys are going to like a couple of things. I'm going to show some love to the no boxers here in this next go round, and see if we can't get a good idea on a shirt for you guys to get a GBR logo on the front and maybe something on the back that I already know. I'm just not going to drop the dime on it yet. So also got something for you guys that like to hold 100th when you're drag racing. So whatever the case may be, we'll figure it all out. So as we continue here on the GBR live episode, want to go ahead and bring up what we all know happened today live on Facebook. TB Promotions came out with the live link to the Twin 50s race right there at Worldwide Technologies Raceway. So let's plug that in here real quick as a excellent source of entertainment number 1, but great drag racing number 2 at an excellent facility number 3. And did I mention there's a bar on site? Okay, well, I'm going to mention it. I know a lot of you guys like to hang out, have you a couple of I got beat 3rd round drinks or pity party drinks, whatever you want to call it. If I were there, I'd probably be right there with you, but it's okay. Definitely, let's see you guys out there at Worldwide Technology for the Race Derby City Twin 50s event. Definitely something that's going to be very well attended again this year. You better grab those spots while you can. I know there's a cap on this race, and I know it's going to get filled. It's happened every year the last 2 years anyway. So make sure, I think it's $199 deposit to get you into the race, get your slot solidified for the event, and definitely get a chance to race at this event. Casey, I know it's not a race that you actually ever been to go to, but you understand Gateway like I do. Worldwide Technology. I do apologize to Worldwide if you guys ever watched this. I grew up at Gateway. It's very hard for me to get past the fact that that's Gateway International Raceway. It didn't matter which direction the track was facing. Casey understands this too. Worldwide Technology. Casey, it's a race you've never been to, but what are your thoughts on this event? It's going to be a pretty epic event again.
Yeah, man, it's one that I definitely wish it was around a long time ago. And I mean, it basically sells out every single year. So if there is a such thing as selling out whenever the gates are wide open, I don't know if that's capped or not. I don't think it is though.
Here, let me help you. There's 75 top entries left. Brian Whitworth is in the chat right now. Thanks for that information, Brian. Race Derby City. I don't know if it'll let that link through, but I'll post it myself and it'll let me do it. So here's that link, guys, on the YouTube channel. If you want to get into that event, 75 left, Casey, and they opened it up today. That's going to tell you something right off the bat. Okay, yeah. We talk about this a lot.
It's a perfect race for that area, and even whenever it was 100 degrees outside or 110, whatever it ended up being, everybody had a great time. I want to say that was the first one that they did, and still everybody came back the next year. So that tells you something. But TB Promotions, and I guess this isn't really a transition. It's a perfect transition, but it's not anymore. It's all the same thing. But I wanted to talk about Verge also because they had a crazy thing this weekend. But Anson Brown throws down a perfect run in the 450 dragster class. Oh, by the way, Anson Brown was a Twin 50s winner, I believe, last year. Whenever So Anson Brown's coming out swinging again this year in Verge now.
But he must like the smell of that TB money. What do you think?
It sounds like it.
Yeah, I would too. Shoot.
Man, 170 cars at the first Verge race of the year in Bowling Green. So 450 dragsters alone, this was kind of going along with my point I made a couple weeks ago about super quick discussion. 12 cars at 450, 9 at 451, 5 at 452. So 26th place on the qualifying ladder is 452, which you say, okay, well, there's 32 cars. So there's still what's that? That's 6 more spots.
Yep.
No, 4. Yeah.
6.
No.
You said 26, right? 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 6 more spots can still be qualified for Super Quick. Now, let me tell you this. Super Quick's 32-car field. 9 cars went 448. 9 cars went 449, which would be beyond the limit for Super Quick. Brian Whitworth, you heard me say limit. You heard me say it. But anyway, My point is those guys squeeze the brakes a little bit. By the way, one of these was your winner, Sean Langdon. Just so you know. Yeah, that's Sean Langdon, the top fuel Sean
Yeah,
Langdon.
you know, the one that's back at
So
March. Yeah.
right. So anyway, they squeeze the brakes a little bit. All these guys, let's just say they squeeze it and they're holding 200s. They squeeze it and go backwards to run super quick. You're talking about 44 guys that could have qualified in that 32 car super quick field. My point a few weeks ago, everybody blew it out of proportion. The reason I said it should be 430 is for this reason, because one race this year, I believe, that super quick will be in all 450 or maybe a 451 field. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that, guys. Don't freak out. What I'm saying is I never said super quick should go away. I do not think it should go away. The reason I think it should be 430 more than anything and give the door cars their 2/10 back is because it separates things. And I don't think that a door car will ever qualify for a super quick field ever again, or really have interest in going, because there'll be maybe one door car. Let's say it's a crazy scenario where there's two that went 450. Why would they're not going to do that?
Well, there was one a couple years back. I can't remember who was driving it. It may have been a firecracker driven car, but I just can't remember that who was driving the Adore car, and it was running in the 450s, I do believe as well. Maybe a little bit of juice on board to assist it in getting there, right? But no, man, it's definitely a very, very good thing is happening in the Midwest. You got Verge here, and on the other hand of it, you have Super Quick. Those two classes, which we both mentioned last week, they are going to collide. It may be happening this week because I believe they're at Indianapolis this weekend for a doubleheader. So if there's nothing else going on, there are going to be a lot of racers listening to going bracket racing right now that say, Super Quicks at Indy. Well, let's just go ahead out there and run some super quick. Like, it's not going to shock me to see Sean Langdon or Anson Brown or someone of that nature at a super quick event. So I'm saying this in Oakley's. I know you guys are listening. Prepare yourself and the NHRA Division 3 for a 64 car field sometime pretty soon. You guys are going to be saturated based on the success of Verge, based on the success of Super Quick, and then based on the fact that both of those two promoters are in cahoots and understand each other. I wouldn't say in cahoots, but at least there's no love lost. It's not like two competing promoters. No, they prefer to work together. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be a excellent feel. I'm gonna say it again. I've said it 1,000 times. I just wish it would spread everywhere. I guarantee you, Extreme Raceway Park could host Super Quick 32 car field, or even Verge 32 car, or Open Run, all run. Don't care. Whatever the case may be, if I had the money, I'd throw it myself. That's how successful I believe it would be.
Well, my whole point was the fact that it's boxing everything in too small. Like, if you open it all up to 64 cars, it makes it a lot better. My whole point was the fact that you can say 450 is the limit all you want, and it's not an index, but eventually it becomes an index because it's the limit, and you're losing variety. And that was my overall point. And I thought that if you opened it up to 430, there are some valid points that people made as far as
opening it up.
As far as opening it up, and that now you got to have different credentials. Well, the facts are is that really the only credential that you don't already have, because every dragster is certified to 6 flat unless it has a chrome cage, which hasn't been a thing since the 90s because NHRA changed that rule. You're already required to have a head and neck restraint because you go over 150 miles an hour if you go 450s, presumably. So all you need is 15-layer fire suit, and a cheap 15-layer fire suit's around, like, you don't have to have a nice one. I got a nice one over here. It's actually 20-layer fire suit, because I feel like if you think you need 15, I don't know why you just wouldn't get 20. They're both hot. It doesn't matter. There's no reason to not be safer. That's dumb to think that way. But the facts are, like, it's literally sitting right there. So I know what I'm talking about right now. But you can get a cheap, crappy one and not crappy as in it doesn't work. Crappy as in it's just cheaper than everyone else for $600. So if you're spending $30,000 to $40,000 on a motor, like they were saying, then $600 shouldn't make a difference. So I don't think the 430 thing, the way that I explained it, is such a detriment to everybody's program like people were acting personally.
I'd much rather see it stay 450 and then open it to 64 cars. Even if Super Quick became all run, it wouldn't bother me. But you have to be within a certain parameter. If you go all
have a
run, you can't
maximum
go.
dial.
Yeah, you
That's what
can't
I
go a
like.
certain way out. So 450 is the minimum. Let's just say
Right.
480 is the maximum or something of that nature. I
Right.
don't know what that number should be, but in my opinion, I'm gonna say it again. I know Verge got 68 dragsters and probably 30 of them. Well, I think Brian said 20 to 25 of them. We're all Super Quick competitors. We
Right.
understand that they're going to share, right? So get ready for the 64 car field is all I'm saying, and that is
Well,
not a bad thing to me. That's a good thing. So get
what do you-
ready.
What do you think about having what do you think about a scenario of a maximum dial in? Because here's the thing that I was thinking is I saw a flyer for just a local top sportsman, top dragster race that somebody was putting on. It might have been somewhere. It was either in Texas or Alabama or something. I can't remember. But I was looking at it earlier this morning, and they said maximum dial in for top sportsman 480, maximum dial in for top dragster 460. And I kind of like that method anymore, just because the thing that I don't like is some of these local top sportsman, top dragster classes. We'll just take top sportsman because that's more what I'm familiar with anyway. If you have a car and it's an all run field, open field, and you just qualify for top sportsman, if you take a car that's just your average 4-link car, tube chassis car, like a pro stock style car, and you're going 40s, right? Like anything you'll see at the Spring Fling this weekend, probably 520s, 540s. That car is more than likely going to be a lot more consistent than a car that's trying to go 390 every single time. So there needs to be a limit to keep people in that realm, so that way we have the same stuff running each other. Because also it gets into a safety scenario, as in a 390 car running down a 540 car. If that 540 car comes over, a 390 car is coming 200 mile an hour to T-bone you. It and stop it.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I definitely don't want to take the floor out of it, to where it goes all the way down to 4 flat or even 430 for that matter. But 450, it requires, number one, tuner's game. It makes you kind of get yourself into that 450 index, or I keep calling it an index, and it's not an index, but limit. That is the maximum dial you can have, the minimum. Minimum. So if we put a maximum out there, I just feel like the number one, the participation is going to go up. Number two, especially at a 64 car limit, if we're at 64 cars, instead of seeing 40 cars show up, I feel like you'd see 50 to 60 or 70 to 80 every single race. That's just me. And the only reason why is because it's opened up so much better. People know they can run slower and still presumably getting to this class. That is, unless what you say happened, all those Verge cars that run 448, you said there are 8 or 9, and maybe 9 that ran 449. Well, that's going to get us into about 55 cars that can run 450. So the distance in between 55 and 64, that ain't very much. I know you guys can do math. So, but interesting things happening at that. And I'm looking at Brian Whitworth. He says at this point, call it top eliminator or something. Maximum dial 470 door car and dragster. So your 450 is your minimum, but your 470 is your maximum, and you put everybody in there. Now, I think that would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would like to see, and I think I told these guys this. That everybody that's probably listening probably says that I told Tyler and Brian this the other day, but I still would like to see, and I don't know if they've done it yet. At the end of the deal, have another, even if it's just another trophy. Whenever the dragster wins and whenever the door car wins, have them run a final together where the door car's dialed 470, the dragster's dialed 450 in Verge, and have them run off. And at the end of the year, make it the door cars are the champions of the Verge series, or the dragsters are the champions of the series, like a owner program. Whenever I think they did that in like NASCAR for a while, where GM was in their own championship with Ford and stuff like that. That would be cool.
So Brian's actually adding in another wrinkle. He says no minimum, and I like that too. I do.
Yeah.
I know it's a points program, and we had this discussion a little bit to where you can't just necessarily go to 64 cars because that's more rounds. It definitely has to be broadcast that, hey, we're going to 64 cars. And in that case, it may be okay, right? But currently it's on a 32 car field where you're making points for each event that you go to. And I think there's an NHRA champion at the end of the year is what I think you mentioned there, Casey. And I think that's right because they're running for Wally's each race too. So it makes makes sense. But dude, I'd like to see a little bit of a wrinkle or two go into this whole thing.
It just,
you know,
my whole purpose of it, again, everybody took it the wrong way. My whole purpose was to reinvigorate the Super Quick series because it's been stagnant. And now don't twist my words around on that. I don't mean that it's over with.
Just say stagnant is the wrong word and then use
what
it.
I'm saying, right. What I'm saying is that it needs to have a change. It's been 450 since like the 90s when it was invented. Whenever 450 was fast, 450 isn't fast anymore for a series called Super Quick. And I understand that I don't want to open it wide open like Brian's talking about, because then you're going to have people like Al Peevler and Philip Oakley, who sponsors the class, come in and go 360s. And now you blew the class out to where people can't afford it. I understand that. But it does need to be different in a way where maybe the bottom end should be, maybe the limit should be 420 even rather than 430. Maybe it should, like, the limit saves you money is what the limit is for. That's what it's for. It's to keep out people like Phil, who we know can make 3,000 horsepower or more if he wants to, and can go out. I think I saw him in some outlaw dragster category at one point a couple years ago going 60s.
Right.
So, I mean, he can go as fast as he wants pretty much.
Right.
But you don't want to have it wide open.
Unless it's a class in itself. I think Brian.
It just needs to be different. In my opinion, it needs to separate itself from other classes, because it has become a 450 dragster index and it has no variety. Because, dude, I went through here one time last year, and if anybody's ever done this to try to count cars and see how many cars are in a race or something, and you just are fast forwarding, you can kind of get in a rhythm on YouTube where you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's the next car staging. During the dragster round, there for a while, the dragster was just changing colors. Like it might have been a little further forward or a little further back, but it was just changing colors. Door cars aren't like that. And I'm not saying it should be all door car thing. That's what Top Sportsman's for. But I am saying that you need to have a mixture of, like I said, you make it 420, 430 again. Now you give the door cars their 2/10 back like they had back in the day for the weight differences, because you got to have 200-300 more horsepower to run the same ET in your average door car as the dragster.
Yep.
And now we have variety again. Now we have because there's top dragsters and top sportsman cars that are so fast to the point, it's crazy to say, but some of these top dragsters, you can't slow them down past 410. You can't do it. Some of these top sportsman cars, you can't slow them down to 450.
Sure.
But if you made that 420, 430, now some people can slow down into it. Other people can speed up. Now it's not so much of a jump for those people to step up to top dragster or top sportsman, because they're already partially there. Because you got to think, the top sportsman and top dragster cars, you get to 450, the next jump you need to make is almost a half a second anymore. I think that the Galat bump for top sportsman for the fast 16 field was like 394 or something. So, I mean, that's a big difference. That's a totally different car, totally different motor.
I also think it belongs in a different class, and that's kind of what Brian is alluding to as well. Because I think Super Quick it's just fine how it functions currently. If we wanted to wrinkle it, I think maybe making it a little bit larger of a field and then making there be a maximum dial into it would give it at least a little bit more of a feel, a little bit more of a kind of a wrinkle to the race. Maybe things start to look a little bit more different. We know that if we slowed it to 480, there's 470 door cars out there already. We already know that. So you're allowing for more door cars to get into the mix. 64 cars is in the actual field, making it a little bit more of a variety, to your point. But I can see the making, and Brian's alluding to this too, with a no minimum dial of a extreme Super Quick class where the minimum like 4 flat and the maximum is like good luck. Whatever. If
Right.
you can't get into that, then however many cars can get as close to that 4 flat and then turn it into a bracket race. I don't want an index race where it's pro tree, everybody leaves at the same time. No. I want head starts. Okay. I want there to be a handicap in the mix no matter what. Okay.
Here's
But
a
it's basically
here's
top
a
sportsman and top dragster at the 8th mile is all it is.
right. Yeah, here's a thought also that if you're wanting to throw wrinkles into stuff, make it where your door car minimum is 470, make it where your dragster minimum is 450, and then number one, like whoever's closest to 470, that's say there's 5 guys run 470 with a 0, that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say there's 5 other guys in the dragsters run 450 with a 1, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
now you got a combination of door cars and dragsters competing on the same level,
Yep.
essentially, but the problem is essentially, there's really no point to talking about it because it's an NHRA class, and realistically, unless Phil goes up and says, hey, I want to start a whole different class, and they probably still wouldn't anyway, but he would have to say, I'm going to pay for everything and we're going to run it at these races, and then maybe they would let him do it. But we all know that that's a slow ball to roll down the hill.
Yeah, but again, and as we both mentioned before, this is a good problem to have. It's a good conversation to talk about just to see if we can't get a little bit more variety into the mix, leave it the same. You guys know, my name's Atchison. I know you understand, Super Quick fellas, that my family has run super quick for the longest. So when you talk about being kind of a brotherhood or a part of the child of a super quick competitor, I am that person. Casey ran super quick himself. He's that person. So let's not get it twisted to say that we don't understand super quick from a whole. But on the horizon and coming very quickly, if you don't give a little bit more variety, and this is another thing I think you're hearing here first on GBR, something is going to come in and take the steam from what you currently have. And that's just what I feel
Yeah, and that's
is
what
on
I
the
don't want to
horizon.
happen.
So you want to have a little bit of variety into this mix. I don't like speeding it up past 450, but I sure do love a maximum or bringing in some door cars and giving them their own, kind of similar to what Casey just said, putting them on a 470 index or minimum dial, whatever you want to call it. If they run 469, well, they done broke out. So you can't have a single door car that dials faster than 470, and I don't care if the dragsters can do it or not. You know what I
And I
mean?
don't really,
That would be
and
neat.
yeah, and that was just a hypothetical idea too, because I really don't like that idea either. Because my whole idea is trying to separate it from Verge.
Yeah,
It's I mean,
it's
the
already
point
separate.
is
It's already
yeah, the
separate.
point is
Yeah.
none of these ideas are thought out. They're just all off the cuff. We weren't even talking about. We weren't even planning on talking about this today. We were talking about the spring fling. It's just
So,
entertainment purposes only. But it isn't. It's never. I can assure you one thing: going bracket racing is anything that's ever trying to bash any form of drag racing. Period. If you go listen to some of our original shows, there's times that I've said over and over again that drag racing is the easiest sport to get involved with, and drag racing is also the biggest sport if you take bracket racing and radial racing and no prep kings and all this stuff and you add it all up. We're the biggest sport there is, and we're the easiest one to access. So if everybody would quit complaining at each other and all work together, we could make it, everybody be fine.
here's Al Peevler. Al, I'm shocked I didn't see you out there at Thunder Valley with the top dragster this past weekend, but he's saying, I'm pretty sure there is some discussion about having another race alongside the 450, bringing more racers to the show. That would be a great addition to the show. Yeah, I agree. Even if we, Casey, we could do it, man. We could very easily say, okay, 450 is the dragster minimum. You run your own 32 to 64 car field, but here's the 470. But it's all on a it has to be on a handicap door cars. 470 door cars is the minimum dial in 470. Qualify for a 64 car field. Now you separate dragsters from door cars and then do maybe a top 8 dragster versus top 8 door car at the end of the year for something big.
Yeah,
Tell me
that
just it wouldn't be awesome.
Do like an elite outlaw class or whatever that like PDRA does. It's already proven to work very successfully, And Al would be one of those people that's in the top 5. In fact, we were talking about me and Dad were talking about Gateways doing 2 quick 16s this year, and it's an open quick 16. And we were talking about how fast do you think you need to go to get in there? And I said, presumably, if there's only 2, Al and Blake will be there. So that's your number 1, number 2 qualifier. And if they're not number 1 and number 2, Phil or Jay Oakley will be 3 and 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. You know, depending on what they pay, I don't know if Danny Nelson will show up or not, depending on what's going on NHRA wise, which is probably also what's the deal with Al. But, you know, I started counting it down, and I was just talking about general people we know. And I'm like, well, top 8's already spoken for. They can all go as fast as they want.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Big Al came out with another one too. He says maybe 4 flat or faster car class. Ooh, that would be interesting. That's all I gotta say about that. All I gotta say. And it has to be on the handicap. I don't want to see Pro Tree. I want to see bracket racing. That's what this is all about, in my opinion.
You know what would be cool if you're going to race dragsters? There was a class that Brandon Boer, who's an NHRA top alcohol guy now, used to race that was called Pro Top Outlaw. And it was like small blocks, or he at least had a small block with like a 1471 blower on it. And he would go to ET Raceway, which is now Wagler Motorsports Park. And I know Al was there a couple of the nights that he was there, and he went like 379 or something. This would have been, dude, this was like, that doesn't seem like much now. This was back in like the early 2000s. Like that was unbelievable. That was like a top alcohol car.
Don't get it twisted. And 379, that seems like much. I've never driven faster than 520. You put me in something going 329, I'm going to need an oxygen tank at the end of it. That's how much adrenaline I'm going to have running through me.
And I don't know how long that shutdown is, but it's not like this was happening at Gateway or VMP or something. Like this was happening at a track where it had decent shutdown, but it wasn't that long. Like he was having both shoots out. It sounded like 2 gunshots coming out. And I mean, it might have been 1,800 feet of shutdown or something, going 189 mile an hour or something like that. So, but that would be very cool to have an open outlaw class with the Super Quick Series. That would be really cool.
Right, man. No, it would be. So yeah, hey, there you have it, guys. Definitely was good to talk about this one. Get the dirty laundry in the washing machine to get it cleaned back up. Make sure nobody gets left out here is what we're trying to do. So Casey, man, we up on that hour. That comes pretty quickly every single time we do this show. And I just turned back on some more time trials here at the Flings. What you got to close us out, big guy?
Nothing, man. Everybody tune in to Spring Fling Bracket Races page. I can't ever say it. It gets me all messed up. Maybe it's easier for a northerner like Biondo to say it, but not me. But yeah, so Spring Fling Bracket Races page. Maybe I just talked too quick, but don't forget 8th Mile Apparel. Get you some GBR merch. And other than that, we'll see you next week and let you know who won the Fling.
Sounds good. See you next Tuesday, guys. Have a good one.